Welcome to the lecture series in computer science. We are seeing a series of lectures in the subject problem solving and Python programming. In today's session, the Python interpreter modes and the naming styles that are to be followed when we are doing the Python coding. The contents of the session are: we will be seeing about what an interpreter is and what are the modes of interpreter. The modes are, we have two types of modes. One is the interactive mode, and we will be seeing about the script mode, and then we will be seeing about the differences between using an interactive mode and in using the script mode. So what is an interpreter? The interpreter, it is used to execute a program in a high level language by translating it one line at a time. So my dear viewers, we will be seeing, it will be interpreting or it will be translating only line by line. It will not be translating as a whole. So one line at a time. Then Python interpreter is a program that reads and executes the Python code. The Python interpreter uses two modes of execution. One is called as the interactive mode, the other one is called as the script mode. Now let us see what an interactive mode is. Before we could see the interactive mode, we will see the advantages and the disadvantages, or even you can call it as the drawbacks of using the interactive mode. First, let us list the few advantages of using the interactive mode. As a first advantage, Python in interactive mode is good enough to learn, experiment and explore. Working in an interactive mode is convenient for beginners and for testing small pieces of code. My dear viewers, as I said, this is convenient for the fresh programmers, for people who do not know how to do their coding, people who are new to programming. This interactive mode is the best suitable mode for them, for exclusively for the beginners. Now let us see the drawbacks of using the interactive mode. When you use the interactive mode, you cannot save the statements and have to retype all the statements once again in order to rerun them. In an interactive mode, the Python programs and the interpreter displays the result instantaneously or immediately. So when you are going to press an enter button, you get the result screen. That is considered as a drawback too. Why? Because if you want to rerun it, I am supposed to retype all my codes again and again in order to get the same similar kind of output. That becomes a drawback here. Now let us see what a chevron is. As a chevron, here it is, triple greater than symbol. This is the cursor or the command prompt that is available within a Python IDLE. Python IDLE, Integrated Development Language Environment, is the elongated form of the abbreviated term IDLE. So that is the place wherein you work the Python codes, and that place you call it as, that mode you call it as the interactive mode. When you work in that interactive mode, the command prompt will be given with 3 greater than symbol, which is called as chevron. Which is called as chevron. My dear viewers, it is a very important examination point of view question, as well a very important interview point of view question. So the 3 greater than symbols, which is nothing but a command prompt in Python IDLE, which comes when you install the Python from the python.org website. You get a default IDLE, Integrated Development Language Environment, in which you get the greater than symbol 3 times, which is nothing but a command prompt. This command prompt is called as chevron. And when you want to add two numbers, in other languages, you use a term called add, or you use a term called you declare it in one other variable and then you compute those two variables. But in Python, you can add two terms, two values instantaneously. That is, you can give it like this, 1 plus 1, and when you press an enter button, you get the result as 2. And my dear viewers, as a coding standard, as a beginner, when you are going to do coding, you will be writing it as 1 plus 1, which is as well correct. But in order to become a professional, always follow a coding standard of giving spaces between the operand and the operator. Like as I have given it over here, you can see this 1 over here, and a space is given, and a plus is given, and a space is given, and one other 1 is given. So the same 1 plus 1, if you represent it in this manner without giving spaces also, it will work, but it is always a good practice to give spaces in between the operator and the operand. And when you press an enter key button, you get the result as 2. And the chevron. Now let us see what the chevron denotes. The chevron is the prompt the interpreter uses to indicate that it is ready for you to enter the code. If you type 1 plus 1, as I said, 1, give a space, use an operator plus, give a space, and use an operand 1. So when you use it, the interpreter replies instantaneously, immediately with the result as 2. This is a very basic example as far as the Python first set of codes are concerned. Now, as a second set of code, again, my dear viewers, what is this prompt I said? It is called as chevron. In the chevron, if I am going to give it as print within quotes as welcome Ganesh, and if I am going to press an enter, you will get the result as welcome Ganesh. Now, why have I given it within quotes? It is because if anything and everything it is present within quotes, it considers it as a string data type. So, as I said in one of my earlier sessions, you can have it as a single quote or you can use double quote too. But when you start with a double quote, you are supposed to end with a double quote. And when you press an enter key, you get the result as welcome Ganesh. So this is what a chevron does. Chevron is nothing but it is a prompt. Now let us see the real Python IDLE which has the chevron. Here this is the Python IDLE. My dear viewers, I have installed Python version 3.8.5 shell, 3.8.5, but in reality, as on date, the stable version that has been released is Python 3.7, or which is also called as Python 3.8. It got released on August 17, 2020. I am using even more advanced version of the stable version. The difference between using a stable version and an advanced version is this version may have certain bugs, but a small bug which is more advanced than the stable version. The stable version is 3.8, but I am using as on date updated version as 3.8.5, which is mentioned as over here. I suppose you can view it. The Python shell, this 3.8.5 denotes I am using the Python version 3.8.5. Here I have many different menus as file, edit, shell, debug, options, window and help. So this Python 3.8.5, it has tags, it is version 3.8.5 and it it speaks about what is the date of its inception, so on and so forth. Now, it has been installed in Windows operating system with 32-bit. So that is the reason it has been installed on Win32. Now, this 3 greater than symbol denotes chevron, and if I want to have any sort of help, I can just type as help, and if I am going to type over here after the 3 greater than symbol chevron as help, give a space, open braces, just type as max, close the braces, press and enter. In the Python ideally you will get the output as the help for the maximum function. What does this max do? That will be represented. Or if I do not know how to do help, place a cursor before this M, press an F1 key, you get an help for the stipulated function. So this is an example for the Python ideally with chevron. Then next is, let us see the few possible syntax errors that happens in basic Pythoning. When you are a beginner, when you are so fresh in coding, you get such basic errors, and such errors are highly readable. You can easily understand what that error states and you can easily correct it. So now let us have a look at few syntactic errors that are used in Python ideally. And my dear viewers, as an advice, what you do is, when you start coding with Python, you take a notebook. At the last page of the notebook, mention the errors, make note of the errors, and so that the more and more you get errors in coding, the more and more better you can become the programmer. The more and more coding styles you can improve. You will become the best programmer when you get more and more errors, because you can learn from errors. You can learn from the past experience. From the very next time, you will not be in a position to commit the same old error which you have made earlier. So as a advice, what you do is, you take a piece of paper or a notebook. At the back side of the notebook, see to that you are writing all the errors. You are listing out all the errors, and how did you rectify those errors also, you make a note of it, so that you will not encounter in such error in the near future. Now let us see the syntactic error in Python ideally. Here I am typing it as, this is a chevron, I am typing it as print, welcome to the world of Python. Now what is the error I have made? Is there any error? It says syntax error. EOL determines end of line while scanning a string literal. In my previous slide, I gave you an example with respect to print welcome Ganesh. What did I say? Welcome Ganesh was a string. How a string should be placed? It should be placed within quotes. Similarly, here the error is easily readable. It says syntax error, end of line as it will be end of line, while scanning string literal. String is a data type. So if you are going to open it with double quotes, you are supposed to close it with double quotes and then close the braces. Now what is the error that is available here? As I have said, I have placed quote C1 and I have closed the braces even, but again I encounter an error. Why is it so? It is because it says again the same error, end of line while scanning string literal. What did I say, my dear viewers, in my previous slide when we are saying about the welcome Ganesh? When you had that welcome Ganesh, either if you start with a single quote, you are supposed to end it with a single quote. If you start with a double quote, you are supposed to end it with a double quote. Here in my case, I have started with a double quote, but I have ended with a single quote, which determines an error. Now, here it is. If I'm going to give it as welcome to the world of Python, I have started with double quotes, ended with double quotes, but I have opened up braces over here, curly braces, so I am supposed to close the curly braces over here. If I am not closing the curly braces, till I close the curly braces, you will not get the chevron prompt. Kindly have a look at this. You will be getting the chevron prompt one and only when you close the curly braces. So I have closed the curly braces. I am supposed to close it over here. Just to have a check, I am closing it some 2 or 3 lines later. So when I close it over here, wherever you close it and press an enter key, you get the result as welcome to the world of Python. This is the result. Now, as I said in my earlier slide, when you type as 1 plus 1 without any spaces, you get the result as 2. But as a coding style, it is always a better practice to give spaces between the operator and the operands. So 1 space plus space 1 will give you the result 2. Now again, here it is. What is the error? Here I have given it as 1 plus star 2. Can you have two operators simultaneously? Like, can you have the plus and multiplication simultaneously over here? I suppose from the basic mathematics that you have read in your schooling, you might be knowing the plus and star cannot appear simultaneously. So it becomes an error. It says syntax error, invalid syntax, and then the red cursor, it points over here. It shows you that you have made the error at this particular juncture. So what you are supposed to do? You are either supposed to write it as 1 plus 2, or you are supposed to write it as 1 star 2, and you are not supposed to write as it has been printed over here. So these are some of the syntactic errors that are available in the Python IDLE, and in the near future when you start coding, when there are certain looping, when there are certain conditions, when it is not entering into the conditions, and when you get certain errors, you will be encountering with an error called traceback error. Traceback error denotes that till this particular line the error is working fine, because Python is an interpreter. It checks line by line. So till this line it is working fine, but from this line onwards it did not enter into the loop, or it did not enter into the condition statement. Condition statements are something like if then else, which you will be seeing in the near future, and the looping are something like for and while, which again we will be seeing in the near future. So when you like, it will be saying till this line it is working, from this line onwards it is not working, so hence you trace back to this particular line. So error finding in Python is pretty easy when you compare it with the other languages. In Python, it will say that till this it is working fine, so only from that particular juncture onwards you will be checking the errors, so you can easily identify the errors. So these are some of the common syntactic errors available in Python IDLE. Now let us see few shortcut keys that are used in this IDLE. I suppose you have seen the menus as, you have seen these many menus as file, edit, shell, debug, options, windows and help. Now let us see few shortcut keys. I am not going to confuse you with showing all the shortcut keys available in this IDLE. Whatever is required for the coding, only those shortcut keys we will be having a look at. Now supposing if I am going to open a particular file, then I suppose, my dear viewers, many of you would have worked with the Microsoft Office Word, MS Word. So most of the shortcut keys are related to the shortcut keys that are used in MS Word too. If you want to open a new file, what is the shortcut key? It is Control plus N. The control key that is available in the keyboard plus N. denotes you wish to open a new file. If you want to open a existing file, it is control plus O. Supposing if you want to open a module, what is a module? Again, when you have 2 or 3 codes which are being embedded together, we will be seeing a module. And in order to open the module, the shortcut key used is Alt plus M. Again, my dear viewers, you are not supposed to press the plus key. In the keyboard, you are supposed to simultaneously press the Alt key and the M key, which will open the, it will ask you for a given input of which module to be opened, and you are supposed to key in the input of the module. So that is the shortcut key for Alt M for opening a module. Now, if you want to open a module browser, it is Alt and C. Alt control button and all, you have it in your keyboard. Alt button plus C. Then if you want to save it, here it is opening a new file. Here it is open. Open module. Here it is module browser. If you want to save it, the shortcut key is Control S, and if you want to give save as, the shortcut key is Control Shift and S. Press the Control key, press the Shift key, press an S key. Then if I want to print whatever I have typed in, I want to have a hard copy of the print, the shortcut key is Control P. And if I want to close my IDLE, then the shortcut key is Alt F4. If I want to quit or exit from the IDLE shell itself, then the shortcut key is Control Q. And if you want to do any sort of undo operation, the shortcut key is Control Z. If you want to do redo operation, the shortcut key is Control and Shift. The shortcut key for cut, copy and paste. For cut, it is Control X. For copy, it is Control C. For paste, it is Control V. Now, if I want to restart the shell, it is restarting shell. Supposing if my IDLE, in my IDLE, if I want to have the chevron prompt to reappear, I am supposed to restart the shell. So to restart the shell, as I given in the previous example, I have not closed the closing braces for in the welcome to the world of Python. So the chevron was not appearing. It was waiting till I am using the closing braces and then pressing an enter. Or if I want to restart over there without closing it, then for restarting, it is Control F. And for seeing the previous history of the data that has already occurred, for viewing history, it is Alt P. My dear viewers, these are some of the important keywords you can have a look at, and it is not mandatory that you need to memorize all these keywords. You have all the keys available within the menu itself, but when you know these keys, shortcut keys, it makes you to have a faster access in coding. Now let us see the naming styles. As far as the naming styles are concerned, we will see about a function, how the function to be used. we are supposed to use a lowercase word or lowercase words. Each word should be separated by underscore to improve the readability. For example, I have not used my function, wherein I have used my underscore function. So this improves readability. I have used lowercase only. Lowercase is nothing but small letters. Then if you are going to use a variable, use a lowercase single letter word or words. Separate the words with an underscore to improve readability. Now let us see as an example X, we have where, we have my underscore where. My dear viewers, you are not supposed to give space between any two variables. If you are going to give space between any two variables, you will encounter with an error. So to have two different variables, two different words, it should be interconnected with an underscore. Now let us see how to determine the type class. As far as the class is concerned, you are supposed to start each word with a capital letter, and you are not supposed to separate the words with underscores. As far as class is concerned, classes and objects, because as I said, Python language is as well an object-oriented programming language too. It is an interpreter language, it is an object-oriented programming language, it is a scripting language. It has many different facets. So these classes, you use these classes when you work with the object-oriented programming. So when you are going to use object-oriented programming concepts, then such classes have to be started with a capital letter. My dear viewers, you might be asking me a question. If I am going to start with a smaller case, will it not work? It will work, but as a naming style, as a professional, as a Python coders, you are supposed to use like this. Then this style is called as the camel case. This is pretty important as far as the examination point of view is concerned, as well the interview point of view is concerned. The naming convention in a class which uses capital letter as a start of the word is called as a camel case. Then let us see how to represent a method. In a method, we are supposed to use a lowercase word or words. You are supposed to separate words with underscore to improve readability. For example, class underscore method. Here in the above case, it was model my class, wherein if you are going to represent a class, you start the class name with a capital letter. Here in the method, we will be giving it as with lowercase, and two words will be combined together with the underscore symbol. Now, when you are going to use a constant, the naming convention is use an uppercase single letter word or words, and each word should be separated with the underscores to improve. For example, my underscore constant, my underscore long underscore constant. And as far as the module is concerned, we are supposed it should be short lowercase. For example, module, and it should have an extension of .py. My module, my underscore module .py. If it is a package, then again we are supposed to use lowercase, and we are not supposed to separate the words with underscores. So these are some of the naming styles. Now let us summarize this session. We saw about the interactive mode, we saw about the interpreter and its modes, and we saw about the IDLE, we saw about the shortcut keys that are used in the IDLE, we saw about the prompt, the name of the prompt is called chevron, and then we saw few examples with respect to the prompt, and then we saw few examples of the syntactic errors that occurs in when we work with the Python ideally. Thank you.